The president had made this big announcement yesterday on the issue of a new type of treatment for COVID-19. And it got a lot of attention, and it's something that a lot of people were talking about. And I was a little confused, in all honesty, because I thought this was something that was already the case. So apparently the FDA has approved what they call convalescent plasma to treat the coronavirus. Now, I was confused because everybody that I know who had the coronavirus, they were told, oh, donate plasma, donate plasma. So I was under the impression that this was already a treatment that was taking place. I guess now maybe that the FDA has approved it, maybe that allows wider use of it. So in order to get some answers on this and what's happening in the world of healthcare policy, and medicine, we turn to our friend Dr. Stephen Greer, who's not only a physician, also a Wall Street portfolio analyst and an author. He's written the book The Medical Advocate. He's also written a book called Rules to Stop Radicals. It's all available on Amazon or wherever you want to order your books. Dr. Stephen Greer, thank you for joining us this morning. Happy Monday.
Hey, good morning. Yes, you're not alone. I'm confused about that, too. I thought plasma was already being used. So, honestly, I don't know what the point of FDA approving these already approved therapies is. Honestly, I don't know.
Well, good. I'm glad I'm not the only one who's confused. So, but explain to us the science behind this. Apparently, there are some people that don't believe this is the miracle treatment that the FDA was touting it as and that the president was touting it as. How effective do you think this is, using the plasma of people that have the COVID antibodies to treat folks that are battling the disease?
All right. Well, I know of no one who thinks plasma antibodies do not work. What you're hearing is pure political stop Trump propaganda coming from unnamed sources who can't cite science and so forth. And it's really coming out heavy since he approved it yesterday. Because if any therapy that gets us back on track is bad for Joe Biden. That's as simple as it is. So any credible doctor knows that antibody therapy works, and it's been used in all sorts of diseases. And so there's no question about it. This is for later stage. This is for people who are already sick and might be going to the ICU. It's not like early treatment for where you'd use dexamethasone or hydroxychloroquine to prevent from getting terribly sick in the first place. This is for sick people who might be on death's door, and they're showing that it's reducing death rates. And there's a lot of anecdotal evidence. I don't know if there's a big randomized controlled study yet. I'm not aware of that, but we don't need that. It's a therapy we've had, for a long time. So.
Well, so I know a lot of people were fortunate enough not to have any symptoms or almost no symptoms of this virus, but then they found that they had the antibodies. Those folks, many of whom donated. A lot of other folks may not realize that they have the antibodies, but sure enough, because this virus manifests itself differently in different people, many of them do have these antibodies. Do you think we need more widespread antibody testing rather than the emphasis on diagnostic testing, which is where most of the local emphasis has tended to be?
That's a great question. And when this was first happening in March or so, for my own concierge medical clinic, I did a lot of work, spoke to the government and so forth, trying to figure out which tests were available. And it just occurred to me recently what happened to the antibody test? Nobody's talking about that. So I personally think that diagnostic testing, where they swab the nose and then do a PCR to see if there's sign of the actual virus in the nose, I think that is of next to no use. Well, I suppose it would tell you whether you should not go around vulnerable patients or something. But it's transient. It's a short-term test. Just because you're negative today doesn't mean you can't be positive tomorrow. The test that people need is whether or not their symptoms were caused by the virus or whether they had no symptoms at all and then recovered from it and they don't even realize it. That's the antibody test. And that is the same thing as the plasma therapy in the news now is they take people who've had the virus and they've got antibodies in their blood. They harvest the antibodies in the plasma and then they turn it into an injectable drug. Well, if you get an antibody test positive, that means you're a carrier. That means you could potentially donate plasma, but it also means you're immune. Now, here's the big propaganda controversy, okay, is people are trying to say that, because antibodies go down in level over months, that you may not be immune, and it's a fool's game to go around thinking you're immune. No, that's how the immune system works, okay? It's really simple. You've got T cells and B cells. T cells are your memory banks. T cells tell you at age whatever you are that you had a chicken pox way back as a kid. You don't need to have antibodies in your blood system for old infections. The T cells will remember it, and should you get another infection with chickenpox or what have you, then it'll turn up. So lingering dwindling antibodies are normal. That's how the immune system works. It doesn't mean anything.
And if people are just tuning in, we're talking with Dr. Stephen Greer. He's been helping us track this virus and this pandemic from the beginning. Always sort of an outspoken view of what's happening, sometimes an unorthodox view about what's happening in terms of healthcare policy. But we've heard before, now that was my impression, and I'm largely of the impression that if you had the virus and you've recovered from it, that you probably can't get it again. But correct me if this is incorrect, but haven't there been some reports, at least internationally, of people who had the virus contracting it again?
Well, exactly. So I would challenge you, show me the reports, show me so what you're hearing is a cacophony of reports and things like the New York Post, which are, tabloid journal. If you really dig down, no, there's no reports that people who have had the antibodies then go out and become sick again. So right now, as we got on the air, and it's in a direct response to Trump approving this stuff, there's already a report coming from an obscure Japanese journal that's being reported in the New York Post, making it seem real. All that case is, for example, is a single man who had the virus before was swabbed in the nose, and they found PCR traces of the virus. He was not symptomatic. He was not sick again. There's every indication to believe that his immune system was working fine, and he was not sick again. But you can get this virus if you fly on an airplane and you're immune and you touch a table because someone next to you sneezed. You're going to have the virus on you for a short time, even though you're immune. And it could be just a false test. It means nothing. But what we already know from this example happening right now in the news is the man was not sick, and there's every indication to believe that he was indeed immune from his previous illness. There is nothing out there saying that there's a lot of talk saying, antibody tests are useless. It's a fool's game. You're not really immune. Wear a mask. No, that's not the case. Sorry. And what I say is unorthodox, and it always becomes orthodox later, okay? So I'm telling you, I'm the first person to tell you that the worst enemy to Joe Biden's reelection is if everybody went out and got antibody tests and said, I don't need a mask. I'm immune.
Right. Well, the nice thing would be if, people that had this antibody test got some sort of certification or some sort of passport, as I've heard people, I think including Senator Bill Cassidy, say, and those folks could go out and participate fully in society. Let those folks go and go to school and go to work without a mask, go and participate in indoor dining, go to gyms without a mask. I mean, there's no reason, if what you're saying is true, that if you have the antibodies, which in a place like New York, apparently 20% minimum of citizens do, that you shouldn't be able to go out. Let me ask you, Dr. Greer, about the rumors that we're hearing out of North Korea. Apparently, there's some speculation that Kim Jong-un is in a coma. A South Korean diplomat speculating that he's fallen into a coma and that his sister, Kim Yo-jong, is poised to take over in North Korea. I mean, obviously, it's so difficult to get any sort of accurate information behind the rice cake curtain. I'm curious, what do you think, based on what we're seeing here, is the true story about what's happened with Kim Jong-un?
Purely guessing based on the timing of his illness and the fact that he is obese and sick and his regional proximity to China and all, if I had to guess, I would say he got the Wuhan virus, and that's what happened to him. But who knows what happened to him? It certainly appears that he is either dead or in a coma. Yeah.
So I was under the impression that North Korea, because they were so restrictive, hadn't had the same sort of difficulties with outbreaks as countries like China that allow more international travel have had. But you think that Wuhan, that the COVID-19 or the coronavirus is a possibility here when it comes to Kim Jong-un?
Yeah, well, they don't seal their borders. They get supplies from China, the oil, coal, food. So stuff's coming across the border in trains. And, I think it's very possible, and if not likely, he's the classic type of person to become very ill. So I've been saying, this is not a pandemic that most people should worry about. I keep emphasizing, yes, certain people, it's binary. It's either kills you or it doesn't kill you. It's very, very deadly to certain people, and he is the classic type of person to be high risk for this, obese, out of shape, and all sorts of things. So.
Well, it is going to be very interesting to see what happens not only in North Korea, but in this country. Dr. Greer, it is always a treat to talk with you, sir. Hopefully we can do this again next week.
You bet. Thanks a lot.
All right. Thank you very much. Actually, I